Hi, this is Jeannie again. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button that time. I hope I'm live again. Did you catch me? I'm here again. This is the big picture, and it's coming from you from Lexington Park, from Lancaster Park, okay, in St. Mary's County. So I'm doing it on location today. Please comment and all of that, and we're going to talk about culture shock, and I wanted to tell you what I meant about that. Let me try to see my screen well enough so I can change my camera orientation. Here we go. Let's see if I can do that. It's really heating up too here. I think this is my camera orientation. Wow. Okay. All I get is glare. Okay, I'm going to turn it around then. And when I get in the shade, I can see better. But you can see this is the memorial. And it's interpretive signage. That is the UCAC remaining flat top. As I was trying to say, this whole park used to be housing for Navy housing. They were called the flat tops because they had flat roofs, and it fell into disrepair and was really old, and it was finally all torn down, but now there's a beautiful walkway with big, beautiful cherry trees that people can use in the community. Okay, so thank you for joining me. So we will be looking at, trying to find some shade here. Yeah. Okay, here I go. Okay. So what I wanted to talk to you about today is culture shock. I know that was a kind of a different title, but personal. And what I mean about culture shock is that the way that we solve problems is, and we solve racial issues, is to be exposed to each other. And I'm not talking about just knowing one black family at church. I'm talking about getting to know and communicate with a culture group that is not your own, that is different from your own. I'm right here by the Navy base, so if you can tell. So this is really important. A lot of people, well, I know a black family that lives down the street, or I go to school with children of different ethnic groups, but really it's a matter of communicating and spending time with each other and listening to each other talk to each other. We can be segregated still in the same school building. We can be segregated in our neighborhoods because one goes to one part of town to shop and the other goes to another town to shop, and really they don't mingle with each other. They don't really attend the same groups. So really it's not good communication. One thing that really helps is to go to discussions that are facilitated. Facilitated just means that there's someone guiding the discussion. There's set rules at the beginning. It's not a shouting match. You do more listening than talking. And when you get together and it's a diverse group, it can really be helpful in healing and reconciliation. I know that I've participated in a lot of groups like this, and some really stark, when you're in a safe place to actually talk about your feelings and about your experiences, it's so much different than any other experience. And people, if they trust the space, they will open up to you better than if they weren't in a trusted space, in a facilitated space. So I've had a woman ask me before, don't white people have compassion? I understand the question. I certainly do. The legacy of slavery, to even own other people, that took a certain amount of you have to numb your conscience in order to do something like that. You become hardened, and you don't see your own cruelty anymore, and the injustice of it all. Okay, but that's what these kinds of and that's the legacy we've been left, and that's what these kinds of discussions do for you, is allow that conversation to go on. And I remember saying as a response to this woman, that's really sad that you have to say that, but it's true. It comes across sometimes that white people do not have compassion at all. I mean, we can't see the injustice. We won't let ourselves have compassion, either because we're afraid of our own social group, or our heart is so hardened that we can't see it yet. But these kinds of discussions, when we get together, are very helpful. And I have the clouds coming up, so I have less sunshine, so I can actually see my screen now, which is a good thing. Daryl Sue, S-U-E, he's a Wing Sue. He is a professor, and he wrote the book that I recommended last week, Racism and the Conspiracy of Silence. And we have to increase our racial literacy, expand the ability to critically analyze racial ideologies, and dispel stereotypes and misinformation about other groups. And he's citing his source here. Increased racial dialogues report less on an emotive level. Participants of successful racial dialogues report less intimidation and fear of differences, and increased compassion for others, a broadening of their horizon, appreciation of people of all colors and cultures, and a greater sense of belonging and connectedness with all groups. And some of the places he cites is APA Presidential Task Force of 2012, President's Initiative on Race in 1999, and his own work in 2003. Yet it is, I'm still quoting from Sue's book, yet it is ironic that race talk is often silenced, ignored, diluted, and or discussed in very superficial ways for fear of offending others or creating potentially explosive situations. So this is what keeps us from this a lot of times, the fear of being honest about our feelings or the fear of attack or but when we do these kinds of discussions, it actually makes us better people because we listen to other people. It helps our empathy. So I encourage you to not only go to, I also encourage you to go to authentic ethnic celebrations and community functions that have to do with other cultures other than your own. Like really Juneteenth. I don't know how many times I have to explain what Juneteenth really is and what it's all about. But go look at the blog of this that came out just today, and it explains UCAC, which is one of our partners organizations, and it explains Juneteenth. But it's not hard to find out. Google it and you'll find out what it is and what the origins of it were, and this is why I picked this place today, is because this is usually the sun's coming back out. Usually where okay, there I go. So now I'm showing you. This is the monument, UCAC monument. We'll look at it in a minute. But usually we've got all kinds of activity going on here this week to get ready for St. Mary's County Juneteenth celebration, which because of COVID-19 is not happening this year, but they're all planning for it for 2021. It'll be even better. Okay. So these are this is the where the flat tops, as I explained before, used to be. But now it's a lot of cherry trees and walking. People are picnicking. People are out enjoying the sunshine. There's equipment out here. Ball fields. We have lots of fun activities to do. People are playing basketball. So we have soccer fields. A very nice place in our community. So really, that what do you think about that? How many of you have been in discussions like this, where you felt? I know sometimes it's frustrating because we leave things. The problem with this is we leave things unfinished sometimes, right? There's no resolution, so it can get frustrating. But that is why we do them. We're not going to get satisfaction. Everybody is not going to agree with us, but it's a growing process. And if we allow people to grow and understand each other, and I know for African Americans it can get really frustrating because it takes, it seems like white people I know are so fragile, and they, a little spoiled sometimes, and it takes a long time for it to sink in. But you have to understand also that this is hundreds of years in the making. This is a lifelong process, as I said last week, for a white person to adjust to a culture in the United States that is truly embraces all people. White people are not used to that, so it's going to be a long process. I apologize for that, but it just will be, and it'll be a lifelong process. And some people, their hearts are already stone, so some people will not get it and will not accept it, and that's something we have to deal with also. But tell me, I'd love to hear your comments if you've gone through some of these discussions, if you've facilitated any of these discussions before. and some of your experiences. I would love to hear about them. And if you don't feel comfortable commenting here, my email is education@sotterley.org. We have done those at Historic Sotterley and other places in the community. We have several groups that do that kind of thing and facilitate those kinds of talks. And we've been to some of all of them. It's not easy, and it's not easy to open up for people to trust. It might take a while. You start a discussion, and it depends on the skill of the facilitator too, and the clear rules ahead of time. So if it can really go wrong quickly if you don't have clear set rules that you enforce, and there's a facilitated discussion. So you don't want that happening. But feelings fly, and we can't be afraid of that. And that's one thing, as Dr. Sue writes in his book. This is why a lot of times when people get together to talk about race, that there's so much fear. People said, "Oh, don't talk about that. We can't do this, or we shouldn't do this." That's counterproductive, and it's fear-based. A lot of what I'm seeing I see social media a lot, because I deal with social media a lot. It seems like since the pandemic hit, I deal with it more than I used to even. But one post I saw the other day was Morgan Freeman. Everybody knows and loves Morgan Freeman, right? Knows who he is. But they posted a meme of, and I've heard him say this in interviews before. I haven't asked him lately what he thinks, but that how to deal with race and the legacy of slavery is to stop talking about it. And remember, I said people are individuals. They deal with things differently. So I know personally some people, some of my friends who that's the way they deal with it. Some of my African American friends, and that's their prerogative. It's the way, because they've lived their lives and they've tried to talk about this, and they've tried to make change, and it doesn't happen, and they keep getting disappointed. So it's a coping mechanism. It's their coping mechanism, and I totally understand that. But that doesn't mean that everybody needs to just be quiet about it. That is not, no. That is one person's opinion. Morgan Freeman, who I love as an actor, and I'm sure he's wonderful to be with. If you know him personally, I don't, but this is the kind of weaponization. People that don't want to hear this talk about race, you see these memes coming out of certain African Americans that and it's exploitative, is what they're doing. That is one person's opinion, but that'll be used to say or the fear, we're going to offend someone. Well, who's someone is what I asked. Someone, we're going, some of our donors won't like it, or, whatever the case may be, but that should not stop us from having these discussions. Carefully planned, facilitated, ground rules, but we need to do that. So I'd love to hear your feedback on some of this subject, but that's what I mean by culture shock. I mean, it's not just having a black family, somebody black in your office. It doesn't mean you have one black family in your church. That's not what exposure is. It's not even, although this is good, attending cultural events that are out of your comfort zone, or somebody different than you. People look different than you. They have a different culture than you. Like Juneteenth, which is great fun. I hope everybody comes next June, to Lancaster Park and come to Juneteenth. It goes deeper than that, and it has to go deeper, and it has to go deeper by these discussions. And a lot of this discussion, even though it was caused by tragic events, needs to continue. Even after the news headlines fade, it needs to be continue, and this healing process has to continue. We can't let up, because history has shown us that we will slip back into our old ways if we don't keep going and keep moving forward. Okay? So let me know how you feel about all that. I'm just going to take a stroll around the park. So that, if you didn't see it before, this is the last flat top. That now is the UCAC Interpretive Center. And they have some statues out front. That we have some parks around here, and right now they have some of them closed because of COVID. But this whole park too is getting a revamp in the next few years. So here's one. It's a little bit burnt, but this talks about the Great Depression and new opportunities. So this one is the economy during the Great Depression in 1930 to 1943, right before, right at the first of the World War II. So most of these signs were done by, the signage was done by UCAC. Most of it is written by Meredith Taylor. I'll give her some kudos here. Here's one about two worlds, one county. So this talks about segregation. So they're looking at data here. Data can tell you a lot. Education, Great Mills School. So read the blog, Sotterley's blog, this week too, because this has to do with some of this also. Talking about St. Mary's Moonshine. It was a rural location, so it at least 50% of the population was involved in some capacity of bootlegging. Yes, they were. Religion. So we talk about these education and religious. These are mainstays of the community that help them weather these hard years and up to the present day of racism. And it talks about, it has oral history, so UCAC is very into oral history and preserving that oral history. Okay, so it has a lot of first-person narratives on here. It's a steamship, St. Mary's. Okay. Oh, and it also has a symbol so you can look it up for more information. It takes you somewhere. All right. So we're going to walk here. This one's, you can tell, has been in the sunshine a lot too. But this talks about the First World War and the African American presence in the First World War in St. Mary's County life during the First World War. Ooh, this looks familiar. Yes. So we have some memorials also in Leonardtown at our county seat that you can also go visit. A lot of those have the African Americans on one panel and whites on the other, especially World War One. Okay, this is Defining Freedom, the Building Community. Here's Drayton Schoolhouse. Plessy versus Ferguson. So we have the economy, how they traveled, where they worked. Black codes, returning United States colored troops soldiers. They had neither land nor wealth. Black codes, laws that regulated black employment, travel, and assembly, and prevented blacks from testifying against whites in court. And orphans' court that apprenticed their children to foreman masters were additional obstacles to progress. That's kind of putting it lightly, but yes. In 1877, a petition from parents asking the school board to grant our prayers for a colored school in the 7th District. So some places didn't even have a school for colored children. They had no school at all. So this fight for education and progress. All right, so we're going to go up here and look at the memorial. There's a threat of thunderstorms today, but it's not raining right now, just some dark clouds in the sky here and there. African Americans, talks about UCAC. St. Mary's County produced 2 USCT Civil War Congressional Medal of Honor recipients, Private William H. Barnes. There was a lot of Barnes in St. Mary's County, and Sergeant James H. Harris. Both were enlisted in the 38th United States Colored Infantry Regiment organized in Virginia. They were cited for their gallantry in the Battle of New Market Heights in Virginia, sometimes referred to as the Battle of Chaffin's Farm. This battle was fought September 29th to 30th, 1864. Slavery was abolished in Maryland with the 1864 state constitution. So here's some Library of Congress photos. And who's responsible for this? You see AC, Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War, Maryland Heritage Area in St. Mary's County, and Southern Maryland, where time and tide meet. Okay, and then we have some plaques. This is Private William H. Barnes and his company and his citation. He was among the first to enter the enemy's works, although wounded, and has a medal for his gallantry. Okay. He never, just like Sotterley's Barnes, who in the USCT, he also died in Indianola, Texas, although it says he died of tuberculosis. And here's Sergeant Harris. Harris spent 9 months in the hospital after being wounded at New Market Heights. He was mustered out of service on January 25th, 1867 in Indianola, Texas. He spent his later years as a carpenter in Washington, D.C. receiving an Army pension of $12 a month at the time of his death. And he's buried at Arlington Cemetery. He was not presented the Medal of Honor until February 18th, 1874. There's some more visitors today looking at the statue. So they list all the Union colored troops. St. Mary's County. These are white Civil War soldiers and sailors. Here's United States Colored Troops, the monument, and Agnes Kane Callum was here during the dedication. I remember I was here. But you see all these names. Look at all these names that we recognize. Barnes, Bennett, Biscoe, sometimes Briscoe. There's Briscoe. Sometimes it's spelled differently or it's a different person, but that takes research. Butler, very common name. Campbell. Do you see your ancestor anywhere? Very cool. Cooper, Daly, Dorsey, Dyson. Go. Hi, how are you?
I'm not taking it back.
Oh, really? I have mine right over there on the bench.
I'm not going to take it back. Maybe you can give this to somebody else.
Okay, sure.
Maybe that kind of, ironically interesting, huh?
Yep.
Well, you have to remember these last names now, okay?
I will.
Remember these last names that don't necessarily belong to them because their names were taken from them.
Right.
Man, you understand where I'm coming from?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
These are slave masters' names.
Uh-huh.
Don't you agree?
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good to know that
agree.
Some people are trying to, get up on their culture, get up on their racism, whatever you want to call it.
Right. I'm on a Facebook Live. Do you want to be on my Facebook Live? Okay. Thank you for coming up to me.
So my name is George Michael.
George Michael, yes, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
I'm not him, the one that he passed already.
Okay.
I'm the senior George Michael.
Okay. Nice to meet you.
He used to make music, what I'm talking about.
Okay. Nice to meet you.
My pleasure, man. Yours is who? Jean.
Jeannie,
Jeannie,
Jeannie Pirtle,
Well, you're getting it all now.
Yeah. Well, I work for Sotterley, so I do a Facebook Live every week. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Oh, great.
So thanks for joining me.
I'll be checking out some of your acquisitions.
All right. I'm going to go across the street, get a good picture of So Mr. Michaels came up to me and gave me some water, and he was explaining the names. Love it. Do you see? I asked him to be part of my video, but he declined. But that's him walking. He's got his back to me now. So sweet. See, that's what you get when you come out, all right? You get that kind of interaction. That's so wonderful. Love it. So this was a labor of love to get this here. See, there's a couple that we're enjoying looking at the monument, enjoying the outdoors, and that's Mr. Michaels with his back to me, walking down the path. Great. He gave me water, and he wouldn't take no for an answer. I brought my own water, but I'll make good use of it. It was kind. Very kind. And we have the United States flag, of course, POW. We have, there's Maryland's flag, and there's St. Mary's County flag. It's a lovely location. I encourage you to visit. If you're in Lexington Park, come down Willows Road and make a left and into the park, and you're there. So it's worth the visit. Okay. Well, thank you all for joining me. I know this is a little different on location, but I hope it was as rewarding for you as it was for me today. And I will see you next week then. Thank you all for joining me. I'll see you back here at 2 o'clock on Thursday.